In this lecture, we're going to learn about the for loop in C programming. Now, before we start with discussing about for loop, let's try to take this example of displaying hello in the screen for 5 times. We have already discussed that whenever we are talking about looping, 2 questions should come in your mind. The first one is, what is the statement that is to be repeated? And the second question is, how many times to repeat that statement? So in the case of displaying hello in the screen for 5 times, the statement that I need to repeat is printing hello in the screen, that is printf hello. This is the statement that is to be repeated, and this statement has to be repeated 5 times. Now let's try to look at the syntax for loop. Okay, so you have got a keyword reserved in C for writing a for loop, so that is for in small letters. Then you open the parenthesis. Then inside this parenthesis, what you write is, you will write the sequence of statements that will take care of how many times to repeat. Okay, so in this case I need to repeat for 5 times. So I need to write certain statements here, okay, which I'll be discussing after some time, which should count up to 5 times. Okay, so this is what you write inside the parenthesis here. And you open the brace and close the brace, and inside this braces, what you write is printf hello, that is the statement that needs to be repeated. Okay, so this what is to be repeated comes here, and how many times to repeat comes here. This is just an idea, a big picture of how for loop works. We are going to see in details about the syntax of the for loop in our subsequent slides. Now let's look at the working of the for loop in more details. Now this is the for loop written down here. Okay, now we need to write certain statements here inside the parenthesis that will make sure that we count up to 5 times. Okay, and inside the for loop, this is called as the body of the loop. Okay, this is called as the body of the loop, and this is the statement that will be repeated for 5 times. Okay, so inside the body we have to write printf hello, and there is no doubt in this. Okay, this is done. Now we need to discuss what are we going to write here. Okay, now here we need to somehow make count up to 5 times. So you have to count up to 5 times here. Okay, count up to 5 times. Now I can count up to 5 times very easily. I can start counting from, so I can start from a number, okay, and I have to end in certain number. So if I start from 1 and go up to 5, I have counted 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So each time I increase the count. So here I am increasing the count by 1. So this is 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 1 is 4, and 4 plus 1 is 5. And whenever I reach 5, I need not go further, and I'll stop here. Okay, this is the end. So whenever I have the count incremented by 1 each time, I also display the message hello. So here I'll display the message hello whenever count is 1. Whenever count is 2, I'll display hello one more time. Whenever count is 3, I'll display hello one more time. Whenever count is 4, I'll display hello one more time. And whenever count is 5, I'll display the hello for the last time. So this will make sure that hello is displayed for 5 times. So I need to somehow start my counter or the count. Initially the count would be 1. So the first statement that comes inside this for loop is the initialization statement, right? So I'll initialize a variable. I'm taking the variable here as I. You can take any variable. So I'll have to initialize I as 1. So this is what I initialize. So this is what I write here. First I equals to 1. Then you give a semicolon. So the first statement that comes inside the for loop parenthesis is the initialization part, which is given here. In this case the initialization is I equals to 1. Okay, now in the second part here I need to write the loop condition, right? The condition that will help me to stop the looping, right? So here what is the condition? So this is I, right? I, each time I is changing from 1, then I becomes 2, then I becomes 3, then I becomes 4, I becomes 5, right? So I should always be less than or equals to 5. It cannot be 6. Okay, so this is the condition, right? So I can write here I should be less than or equals to 5. This is my condition. Okay, so this is the condition that I have written down here. Evaluate the loop condition. The loop condition will come second here. Okay, then I give the semicolon. And finally, how am I actually updating the value of I? So updation comes at the end here. Okay, how am I updating the value of I? I'm each time updating the value of I, I'm incrementing by 1. So I can write I plus plus, that will increment the value of I by 1. Okay, so this is the complete loop that will make sure that it will print the hello for 5 times. Okay, now what you need to understand from this particular slide is that inside the for, okay, the condition what will determine how many times the loop should run has 3 components. The first component is the initialization. Here I is 1. The second component is the condition that will actually control my loop. So this condition here is I must be less than equals to 1. And the third thing here is how do I update the variable I? Here I increment the value of I by 1 each time. Okay, so this is the for loop that works fine. Now we are going to see in more details how it really works. Okay, now this is the for loop that will display the hello for 5 times. Okay, now let's try to trace this code. Okay, let's try to trace this code. Okay, what happens first of all is step number 1, I is initialized to 1. Okay, that is step number 1. Initially there is a variable, okay, I, which is having the value 1. Okay, so this is the first thing that happens. After this is done, step number 2 is to evaluate the condition. Okay, so in this case, first of all I'll evaluate the condition. Here the condition is I must be less than equals to 5. So this is the condition. Okay, so I'll have to evaluate the condition. Condition I is 1, so I'll evaluate 1 because I is 1. I is less than equals to 5. Okay, is this true or false? Because this is a condition, it will evaluate to either true or false. Okay, so 1 is less than equals to 5 is true, isn't it? So if it is true, what happens is if it is true, in step number 3, it will go inside the body of the loop. So this is the body of the loop. Inside the body, I am having just one statement that is displaying the message hello in the screen, printf hello. Okay, so after step 2, it goes to 3 if the condition is true. In this case, the condition is true, so it will go inside the body and then it will execute this statement. So it will display hello in the screen. Hello will be displayed in the screen. Okay, and once this is done, once all these statements, there is just one statement inside the for loop here in the body of the for loop, but if you have many statements, those will be executed one by one. And once you reach the last statement of the body of the loop, then you go and in step number 4, you increment the value of I by 1. So I plus plus will now make I becomes 2 now. Initially I was 1, now I becomes 2. Okay, now once that increment is done, what happens is it will again go and check the condition. Okay, so this is, let's say this is step number 5. Now again we'll go and check the condition. What is the condition? I less than equals to 5, I was 2, so we'll check 2 less than equals to 5. Is it true or false? It is true. So if this is true, you follow the path, you go inside the body and execute printf hello. So hello will be displayed in the screen. Okay, then again you go step number 4, you update the variable I. So I now becomes 3, incremented by 1, I becomes 3. After this you go to step number 5. So here you will see you reach in step number 2 and you will have to check the condition I less than equals to 5, right? So I is 3, 3 less than equals to 5 is true, right? So this is true, you go inside. Okay, so then you display hello in the screen. Okay, once hello is displayed, again you go back and update the variable I, you execute this. So I becomes 4, right? I becomes 4, and then again you go and check the condition I less than equals to 5, that is this one. Okay, I is 4, 4 less than equals to 5 is true, right? If it is true, you do nothing, go inside the body of the loop, you will execute this printf hello. So hello will be displayed. Okay, and then once that is executed, you go and update the variable I. So I becomes 5. Okay, now check the condition again. Okay, this is the condition checking. I less than equals to 5, I is 5, so 5 is less than equals to 5 is also true, right? 5 is less than equals to 5 is true. So you go inside the body and execute the printf hello. So hello would be displayed. Okay, then what you do is you go and increment the value of I. Okay, now I becomes 6 and just following the procedure. Now I becomes 6. Now once I becomes 6, again you go back and check the condition, this one, right? I is 6, 6 is less than equals to 5. Is it true or false? Now this statement is false. So whenever the statement becomes false, whenever the condition becomes false, you do not go inside the body. Now you exit out of the loop. So whenever this statement becomes, let's write it here, if this becomes false, what you do is you just come out of the for loop, and if there's any statement outside of the for loop, you can execute that. Okay, so the meaning here is very simple. Until and unless the condition is true, you go inside the body and execute the statement inside the body. Whenever the condition becomes false, this condition put here in step number 2, if this becomes false, you exit the loop and the looping stops, the repetition stops. Okay, this is how for loop actually works. I hope you have understood this tracing, and this is going to help you whenever you are having a for loop and you would like to see the output properly and you did not understand how it really works. Make sure that you make a table like this and trace your code. That will help you to understand the loop in more details. Okay, now let's try to summarize the syntax of the for loop. Okay, this is the syntax of the for loop. So for loop, for is the keyword, okay, small letters. Then you have 3 things inside the parenthesis. Open the parenthesis, close it. First is initialization, initialize the variable. Then you have the condition. Okay, now this condition is either true or false. If it is true, you go and execute the body of the loop. If the condition is false, you come out of the loop and exit. Okay, so this is the condition, and once you are in the body of the loop, what you do is you go back and update. Once you are updated, check the condition. Condition is true, get into the body, okay, and update, check the condition. Keep on checking the condition and keep on executing the body if the condition is true. Whenever the condition becomes false, you just come out of the loop and you are done with looping. This is how for loop works. Now we are going to write a computer program to demonstrate for loop in more details. Now here you are supposed to find the sum of numbers starting from 2 to 20. That means you are going to do 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus up to 20, and you need to display this sum. You can actually manually do this, right? But it's not a good idea. We can actually use loop to actually loop over these numbers and keep on adding these numbers in our sum variable. Okay, so finally I need to display the sum, so I'll have to have this variable sum. Okay, if I just write int sum, sum will take some garbage value, but that will give us unusual answer. So it is always good to initialize the sum as 0. Okay, so initially I have not added any number, so initially sum is 0. So I'll just write here initially sum equals to 0, as I have not encountered any number so far. Okay, so now I need to write a loop. Let's write a for loop. Okay, so for running a loop I need a variable. Let's assume that the variable is I, so I have to write a for loop here. Okay, and this is the body of the for loop. Okay, this is the body. So here I need to write initialization, condition and updation. Okay, so initially what is the value of I? Because I, the first value that I need to add is 2, so I can initialize the value of I as 2, so I can write I equals to 2. This is my initialization, right? What is my condition? I will go up to 20, right? So I can write I is less than equals to 20. Okay, I cannot be 21, so I need to go up to 20. Each time I need to increment the value of I by 1. Okay, because first I is 2, then I is 3, so I need to update the value of I by 1, so I can write I plus plus, or I can also write I equals to I plus 1. Anything is fine, but let me write I plus plus here. Okay, so this is initialization, I equals to 2, condition I less than equals to 20, and updation is I plus plus. So what you do in the body is, each time in the body, initially for the first time I will be having the I as 2. Okay, so my initially sum was 0, so I'll have to add whatever my previous sum was there plus I. So what will initially be is, initially sum would be, previous sum was 0, 0 plus 2. Okay, this will be the sum initially. At the next iteration I is updated, now I becomes 3. So whenever I becomes 3, the sum is 2 as of now, so 3 will be added in the sum. Similarly 4 will be added, 5 will be added. This will keep on happening, and the last value that will be added is 20. Okay, so this is how the addition happens, keeps on happening. Okay, Once you are done with the entire thing, you are outside of the loop. Here you will just print this sum. So I'll just write sum equals to %d, okay, and I'll write sum. So this will give me the sum of numbers starting from 2 to 20. So let's try to save this and then compile this code. Okay, now let's run this code. So the sum is 209. If you keep on adding the numbers starting from 2 to 20, it is 209. Okay, so you can write a different condition here as well. Okay, because I less than equals to 20 will make sure that you go up to 20. But if I write I less than 21, that will also ensure that I'll go up to 20. Less than 21 means I'll go up to 20. Okay, let's try to change the condition and see what happens. Again, the answer is 209. Okay, so there are different ways in which you can actually write down your loop. Okay, but you have to make sure that these three conditions are there: initialization, condition, and the updation statements. Okay, so this is how for loop works. I hope you have understood the working of for loop. If you are not very clear on this, please make sure that you do the tracing of this particular source code. It will help you further in understanding the loop in more depth and in more details. Okay, so that's all about for loop. We are going to discuss about while loop in our next lecture. Stay tuned.